Seeing Beyond. Living Transformed is a spiritual crossing of the threshold to the world of being a truly expanded human being. Join mediums Cheryl and Kelly for conversations about discovering deep spirituality, developing your intuitive and empathic skills, and personal mediumship. Each episode will focus on tips, tools, and techniques to help you understand and expand your own inner gifts and life journey. You can call in each week to receive spiritual guidance, personal readings, and we'll answer your questions. We'll talk with luminary experts on meditations, the afterlife, energy healing, past lives, and much more. Join our Seeing Beyond spiritual community to learn more about expanding your mind, body, and soul, and have fun on your journey to empowered transformation.
Hello and welcome to today's show. We have an early edition with you today. Welcome to Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed. I'm Cheryl Murphy, and I want to always say hello to my co-host, Kelly Eckhart. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm great, Cheryl. Thank you. And I'm super excited to have Paul on today and find out all about him.
I know. And so for everyone coming on live or watching us live, we always ask if you follow, share, like our show. We always wanting to build our audience. And we do have an early edition today. So we will doing a replay later at our 5:30 Pacific time hour as well. But we are on early today because we have a special guest from the UK named Paul Bannister, a wonderful psychic medium. We want to say hello to you, Paul. How are you today?
Good. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry that we're early. It's my fault because it's just gone 8 o'clock in the UK in the evenings. But so thank you for that.
Oh, and also I should say, good evening. How are you today? Yeah, it's your evening.
It is, absolutely. And it's just a privilege to be here with both of you. Thank you for asking me on.
Well, thank you. It's a special day. Anytime we can have you on, Paul. I know I met you a while back. And you've had me on your podcast, Spiritual Talk TV. So we'll be getting into that. I love what you're doing. Can you just mention a little bit about your program with Spiritual Talk? I know it's on YouTube mostly. That's where I've been watching your shows.
Yeah, it's fundamentally now just YouTube. We used to go live on a Wednesday evening on YouTube and Facebook, but we're now just putting pre-recorded interviews into YouTube. And it started off in COVID, in lockdown, really, just as an information service, because I was seeing a lot of people jump online that were giving some unusual advice, shall we say. And I can't to start off by interviewing people that have been in this game, in this. I don't want to call it an industry, but it's like an industry within our world to kind of bring their experience rather than some of the stuff that was out there. If that makes sense.
I like that. Yeah, there is some interesting things out there on TikTok you politely mentioned, and Instagram. And I think the more education, the better.
Yeah.
is really helpful. And I do enjoy finding other mediums that are open out there, like sharing positive, like accurate information, I would want to say.
Absolutely.
Makes me happy. Yeah, but there's more of the others. It's crazy.
Yeah. Can I share a little story while we're here?
Please.
I love it.
One of the inspirations, there was a lady that was on there on TikTok, and she had a pendulum, and somebody asked, could you answer whether my husband is cheating? And she got the pendulum and she went, yes, my lovely, he's cheating. I had this vision in my mind when this poor guy got home from a hard day's work, the wife was waiting in the porch with a shotgun, you know. One of my inspirations.
So irresponsible.
Exactly. So whatever happened, I pray to God that there was a positive outcome from that. But just don't know. If people don't realise the responsibility they have when they call themselves a psychic or a medium,
exactly.
People live on or hang on those words. And if they're in a vulnerable position, it's very difficult. Yeah.
I know that, I know for you, Paul, and for Kelly and myself, we really try to maintain that integrity, or really the high ethical, moral viewpoint that we know that what we say and what our intention is, we're always hoping that our intention is to help others, right? We're here to help. We're here to hopefully offer healing as well.
Absolutely.
And I can say, Paul, like I learned a hard lesson during COVID. We did this thing called Wisdom Wednesdays with Cheryl and another friend of ours. Allison, who's not doing so well. And we used to do this every Wednesday on Facebook Live. And it was a lot of fun. That was kind of how our podcast idea started, I think, in my head. And I do really well with connecting with babies before they're born for families. And so we were doing quick readings on Facebook, and I told this one woman I saw a little girl coming her way. I didn't say when, I just said I knew that her next child, or she was definitely going to have a little girl, and that she only had boys. And she confirmed that. And so she was very excited. And about a year later, she came on really angry that she'd had another little boy, and it was all my fault.
Oh.
I was like, I didn't tell you to go out and get pregnant. I just said, I saw a little girl in your future. You know, I always tell people, like, what I'm seeing, I don't have always timelines. This could be, you know, longer in the future. This could have been a grandchild. I just knew she was a little girl and had chosen her. I couldn't really say when. I just thought within the next few years.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So she went out and got pregnant immediately based on that. And I was like, I never told her.
It's okay.
So now I kind of am like really cautious about what I say. And I wasn't I was using discernment, you know, but people take what you say so literal.
Yes. And it can be so difficult because, and I'm going to give a shout out to my sister who's just become a grandmother for the first time. And my niece just had a little boy, Teddy, but we were all convinced that she was having a little girl. So don't ask me what sex it's going to be. I'm just going to leave that to the expert.
You never.
I'm not going to lie. I have like a 90% accuracy. I've been tracking for 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I've been like 90% accurate because I connect with the babies before they're born, but I didn't trust it at first.
Yeah.
And now I've kind of really learned to trust it. And I have a little joke, like, who's to say that little boy that she had really isn't more of a feminine personality?
Who knows? Who knows? The
Because that's what I'm picking up on. You know?
Yeah. The problem is that she then came back to you and was like, hang on a second, you told me it was a girl.
So I'm careful about what I say now.
So at least the pregnancy rates in that area have gone up. So she keeps trying to get a little boy.
Yeah,
little girl.
Probably has a little girl now, but won't come tell me.
Well, as we have new guests and we have people logging on, we want to introduce everyone to our new guest for today. We are on early today because Paul has been so kind to join us from the UK. So it's evening time where Paul Bannister, a lovely psychic medium. He has a wonderful podcast as well called Spiritual Talk TV. But Paul, I know you have an interesting history or how you got started in this field of being a medium and a psychic medium. So can you share with us your story, please?
I'll do the short one because it's over a very long time. So I'll do this in a short way. Okay. Basically, I lived next door to a medium and her son, we were very close. He was the closest thing I had to a brother, as I've got two older sisters. I used to tease them and said I was the Cinderella, not them. And I didn't go down too well, my sisters. All joking aside, and as you can tell, I do like to joke. I've got a really bad sense of humour. So I apologise now, guys. I'm sorry. But with what I do, you kind of I get that sense of humour. It's what we do can be quite difficult at times. And I've found over the years I've built this kind of, not great joke repertoire. So anyway, moving on back to what happened to me. I was probably about 7 or 8 when I first had my first experience. Within this house, my next door neighbour was a trance medium, and as we grew, this Pam used to sit in circle, and I don't know if you guys agree with this kind of stuff, but it was called a rescue circle where they would help souls.
We've heard of those.
I've heard of them,
which can be a very difficult. Some people don't believe in that kind of thing, but I always remember when they used to sit in circle, the dogs around the local area used to start howling. So it was quite interesting. Yeah. So but fast forward on. I mean, we grew up around this kind of thing. So and Pam, when we was a lot older, John and I, she would ask us if we could be her guinea pigs, and she would practice going into trance.
Oh, I love it.
Her guide would come through and tell us all about the spirit world, the spheres, and the music and the sounds of the angels. It was just amazing. fast forward on from that, you get into your 20s, you're looking at your career, settling down, doing all the normal things that you would do. And then I was diagnosed with a brain tumor around 27. And I was told I was going to be in a particularly bad state afterwards. But I kind of guess it was a mini miracle. The tumor had crystallized. So I was able to then recover really quickly. Now, I always say to people, when I came into mediumship, I didn't really have a faith. I grew up in a non-religious family. But I do remember being diagnosed with a brain tumor, and it was about the size of an apple. And the initial diagnosis, I remember the consultant, he said, well, look, old boy, very English, look, old boy, he said, you've had a good innings. I'm 27. And he said, but it potentially could be brain cancer. So, and I remember in that very low moment asking God for help.
Yeah.
Now, did I have a right to do that? Probably not, because that's the first time I put myself before God and asked for that. But then transpired over the next 18 months, when I had the operation, it was a complete success. And it, like I said, it had crystallized. And I was able to work within 6 months of the operation. Pretty unheard of. Yeah. So then fast forward on from that another year, and I remember I just remembered asking God for help. And at that time, fast forward on the year, I'd bought a new house. Life was good. And I remember saying, what can I give back? That's when it all started. So I started my journey that way. It literally, the house that we bought became really haunted. And we was being woken up in the middle of the night. And so I said to my partner, we either need to go to a priest or we need a medium to clear the house. And I went to see a medium and to explain. And she was just like Doris Stokes. I don't know if you guys would have known good old Doris Stokes.
We love it.
There is a video of her on YouTube.
Yes.
And she said, oh, lovely, they want to work with you. And at the time, I was like, no. Because I'd had that background. I wasn't really thinking this is what I want to do. It was probably the last thing that was on my bucket list, to be honest. But here we are, fast forward, and I'm doing it. I'm now demonstrating to the public. I've been demonstrating about 10 years. But I started working probably about 20 years ago, maybe more.
Oh my God, that's a miracle, Paul.
I love that story. I have a question. Can I ask you? You said you grew up next door to a trans medium.
Yeah.
And as a child, like that she would practice on you. Like, how old were you? Were you teenagers?
So the problem was, John and I, we were slightly naughty. So we would drink when we was about, now in the UK, you can drink when you're 18. Now you guys have to be 21. And we used to go into this pub, and the guy was quite an old boy, and he'd serve us when we were 17. So we'd come home. We didn't go over the top. It wasn't too bad. And we'd come home having a few drinks. And so having that and then experiencing trance on top of that. And then there would be the phenomena. So there would always be, we'd see smoke. I joked smoke used to come out the back of the TV. But it kind of there was this energy that built within the room. So early days, it was a bit of, really eye-opening. And I also add into that, it was quite scary. I was quite scared of it. So
I guess it's like a two-part question. My question was like, did you feel the energy at that age? Did you understand there was something going on and really know and believe it? Or was it like you were a young adult and you're like, this is crazy, or it's all in our head? I'm just curious.
I mean, looking back, it's easy to look back and identify certain key markers and experiences that meant this and this. But at the time, we don't always reflect. But now that I've had the opportunity to reflect, I look back and I think, well, this was this. So I was always aware of energy coming into the room, but I couldn't see them.
Okay.
I knew somebody was there. Always had that.
And even as a child, when you were very young?
Yes, as a child. It turned out, according to say hello, Mum, if she's listening. Hi, Mum. And she's now 85, by the way, and she still drives. And She is. She's
You
very.
look too young to have an 85-year-old mom.
Oh, bless you. No, she was very old, Mum. Is that right?
You look like you're in your 40s. I mean, that means your mom would have to be in her 40s when
So
she.
I'm not saying anything. Moving on quickly. Moving on. I'll take that though. Thank you, Kelly.
Oh, you're welcome.
You too. It's made my day. Okay. Where was we? I've lost my train of thought.
Well, I was just curious if you ever felt, when looking back now, based on your experiences, if you look at your childhood, were there stories or experiences where you thought you saw spirit or you knew things that you shouldn't have known as a child? I'm just curious.
All the time. We had there was a couple of times where we had some difficult experiences where there was a lot of phenomenon. If guys wanted to Google this, Borley Rectory wasn't far from where we lived, and Borley Rectory was supposed to be the most haunted area within the UK. Now, obviously, we've had things like the Enfield poltergeist. There is a well-known phenomenon in different places, but John and I was going to go to this Borley Rectory, but then all of a sudden there was a lot of phenomenon within the house. And if you know the story, there's a sighting of a nun at the house. Well, the nun came to our house, and the medium who was based in Lowestoft which is about Lowestoft from where we was in Bury St Edmunds, is about 40 miles away.
All right.
Sean phoned John's mother to say, them boys are up to no good. They're off. They want to go to Borley Rectory, but it's coming towards them. They're not to go because they're mediums. He said that tend to stop being stupid and do not go towards it. So we didn't in the end, because I could sit here and again, it's easy for me to say this. I've experienced it, but unless you experience some of the things I've seen, people are not going to believe me.
Right.
I understand that.
One example that I'll throw in there for you was a very large glass window, probably about 7 foot across, started to ripple like water. Now, it wasn't just me that saw that. Now, obviously, we can have different things, and I wasn't drinking, ladies. I'm going to rule that out. We wasn't smoking anything. We were good boys, but we saw lots of phenomenon, things flying off the shelves, moving around, and the house had to be settled. It's a better word.
So what do you see? I know I've experienced things like that as a small child, even because I grew up in a very open house, and we played the Ouija board as a family and connected to spirits and everywhere we lived. And I grew up in a spiritual living, which is similar to spiritualist churches.
Yeah.
In Venice Beach in the 70s, where everybody was like a hippie and their parents were all into crystals and bongs, right? I was one of the lucky people that grew up in the spiritual community, but I did experience things like that in my family in different, because we moved a lot in different homes. When we never touched the Ouija board thing, our family, we just put our hands in the air and it moved and answered our questions. And a couple times, I remember when I was 3 years old, it flew across the room and scared me. I was terrified of the gift because I had adults in my life telling me, oh, you're tapped, because I saw a lot of spirits as a child. You've tapped into this other world and they're going to haunt you and torment you and all these things. So I had all this fear, which was unnecessary. But looking back now, I feel like I understand a lot of it. And some of that crazy stuff that happened was my fear energy mixing with what I believe was residual energy in the home. Because I've popped light bulbs, I've had things fly off shelves, I've watched a lamp fly across the room, all from my own energy. But I can see as a child how I misinterpreted that fear as spirits activity. I'm just curious what your belief is on that.
100%. And they were actually right when they said to you that you're in between two worlds, basically. You are.
Yeah.
And you always will be. As we grow older and grow into our adult mind, we understand that the fear isn't real. We create that fear through what we don't understand. And when we don't understand or see it properly or get it, we create that fear. So once we move through that, and I'm speaking from experience with this because I used to fear it.
Yeah, me too. I was terrified.
By the way, I've got envy though, because Venice Beach sounds beautiful.
Yeah. Kelly's been on the beach for a long time in California, up and down.
It was a very eclectic childhood in a very dysfunctional family. But I will say I had some amazing experiences, and I'm not going to lie, my childhood was spent at the beach because that was my like a cheap daycare for my mom. As early as age 3, we'd get dropped off at the ocean in the summer at 7:30 in the morning when she went to work with my siblings. I'm the youngest of 5, and she left us with $20 for the day and said, "Fend for yourself. I'll be back at 5:30 to pick you up." So you know what this weird child did is I gravitated towards the homeless, and I sat with the homeless all day, and we talked about the universe and this higher power because I felt it early as 3 years old. And I only resonated with adults, and so I didn't really have any friends till I was about 13.
Wow.
I was a very weird kid, and then of course I had a very weird kid. He's 18 now, but he is the reason I started developing, because he brought back all those like emotions and feelings that I felt at his age. He also didn't make any real friends until just like last year. And he's 18. First time he's ever made like friend group, because we're just such a weird people, but we're our people.
You're our people. Well, Paul, let me ask you about your health, number one, and this amazing brain tumor healing that you went through. I mean, you must have felt that, great source energy or God, or however we look at it, had a role to play in it. And also, how are you doing now with that? Like, are you free and clear? Is this
okay? So I think the key moment, as I was trying to say earlier, when I said to I want to give something back. What can I do?
Yes.
I was kind of saying that I want to give myself a service. What is it I can do to work on that, or give something back, rather than just asking as we always do?
Yes.
It's okay to ask, because I understand with that love and that energy that we connected with the divine. But it's nice also to ask. It's polite, isn't it? It's very polite. So, and that was the key marker for me. It all started. The house became very haunted. Once I then went to the medium, I was then given a teacher, and I'm going to give him a shout because he's still working today, and he's in his 80s, and he's an amazing man, and his name is Paul Lambillion. And Paul Lambillion. So it sounds like a very nice sports car.
Yeah.
And he's a most amazing healer, the most just wonderful man. He does a free meditation, but that's in the UK at 9 o'clock in the mornings every once a month. But he's truly gifted. And he taught me how to intuitively read auras. He's given me so much foundation, sent me on a healing course so I can understand energy. So I had the right teacher at the right time, which helped me to fit in all the things that I was supposed to be doing. But it was him that actually said, yes, you are supposed to. You've made an agreement before you come here, which I find fascinating. And so in terms of my health-wise, I've never had a problem since.
I mean, it's incredible, and that's how you came on your path. I mean,
I think it's amazing and a miracle. Yeah, I just, that's such a blessing, and you're so lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've even got a scar. I don't know if you can see it. I've got a scar. I've just had my hair cut. Can you see it?
Oh my God, I think or is that my screen? Wait, do that again.
It might be my camera's not good. I've got a scar going around the back here.
I think I see it. I think I barely see it. It's so minimal.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I always joke. It's if you're a football fan, or when you go away as a football fan, they can be a bit noisy and raucous. And I always joke it's a football scar. It's not really. It was a hospital scar.
I like that story though. It gives so. I guess my question is, like, you came into this around 27, but you believed in it before that. Like, you didn't doubt it, right?
Yeah, but too much phenomenon to doubt it. And I grew up in my father was very logical. He was an electrical engineer. So everything was about, well, it doesn't make sense. It's got to, this is your imagination. We've all heard that.
Yeah, I have my whole life.
But unfortunately, he also witnessed things that he didn't understand. And it wasn't until I was in my adult life that he started to open up and talk about it. Indeed, he had his own near-death experience.
He did.
And this is your father?
Yeah.
Father, yes, so he had an operation. If you want me to share, MJ's just come on. Hi, MJ.
Hi,
It's a fun
MJ.
Hi, MJ.
down in Arizona. I think he's in Arizona. No, see, I've even got that one. I think it's West Virginia, but he'll tell me. He'll tell me if I'm wrong. So my father had I don't know if you guys have heard this, like a vascular operation where they move a vein. They moved a vein from one leg to another leg because my father had Virginia. Thank you, MJ. From the left to the right and right leg because he's poor circulation. And in the operation, I remember I got a summons from father. He was at Adam Brooks. Mum was looking after him. And at the time, I was bringing my children up, and I got a phone call. Dad wants to see you. He wants to talk about an experience that's happened to him. All right. Okay. So I was not expecting my father to say this. Basically, he went down for the operation, and they put him out. The usual count back from 10, and he was gone by 5. And he woke up on the operating theatre. And my dad, bless him, he suffered with polyarthritis before he died, and that was every joint of the body. And he said he woke up and he sat up because there was nobody in the operating theatre. He looked around, but then he also realised he had no pain in his body anymore.
God.
And as he was walking around the theatre looking for someone, his lights in the corner started to form, and then they started to come towards him. And he said, I'm not ready yet. I'm not. He put his hands up and said, I'm not ready to come yet. And he then looked at me and said, well, what do you think? Oh, well, I said, well, you've obviously passed on the operating table, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
No. I said, well, how did you know? Subconsciously, you said, I'm not ready yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It still went, no, not this, usual. But then about a week later, the surgeon came to see him. Mother was present at the time. And he said, Mr. Bannister, the operation was a success in the end, but we can't do any more because he was scheduled to do another one. Because unfortunately, you're high risk. We lost you on the table for about 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. And his way of saying, maybe there's something in this. He bought me a book on mediumship. That was his way of saying, well, there is something in this after all. Yeah.
I'm going to bring tears to my eyes.
I know. I love that story. I think that's beautiful.
Because just to share with you guys, so my father never had any experiences like your father, and he didn't know what to believe, but he believed in me. Like that's what he told me, which helped me out. But that was so nice, right? Like I don't never had those experiences, Cheryl, but I believe you've had them, and I believe in you. So that's how my father kind of learned what I do, or learned about, the afterlife, so to speak.
Yes.
How touching for you to have with your father, and he must have been either more intuitive afterwards, or was he more inviting and open to the conversation? Did he want to know the book that he handed you? And
interesting, and it wouldn't say that, but I noticed that he changed as a person. Yeah. Just subtle changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that was really important. So he passed in about 3 years after that. But I think he probably felt that. Now, my dad never came through for 5 years afterwards, but he has come through. Now he comes through all the time.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's difficult with our parents, isn't it? My mother passed about 3 years ago, and she really doesn't come through for me. I think 2 mediums have kind of brought her through, but I just don't connect with her right now. And I know why. But I think like it can be hard because I'm a medium. Like, why can't I connect with her? I mean, I connected with my son immediately when he died. Like, why not my mom? But I know why. I mean, I understand it's part of like her journey and my journey combined, and the healing process and all of that. But it's hard, isn't it?
Absolutely. I believe there is a healing process within that relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember the lovely Jennifer Rose. I was on a Sunday service for her. And I was doing a service, and there was a lovely couple came to me, Scottish couple. I said to the audience, I've got parents here. I think they gave me names and details. And I thought, well, I'm in an American group here. This isn't going to go down too well, bringing Scottish parents through. But there was a lady in the group,
Oh,
Scottish, and she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "they're my parents."
oh, how
Then
lovely.
then they said, "Tell her we're sorry. We've taken so long to come through." And
Oh,
then she went, I don't know if you know Scottish people, they can be a bit abrupt. Not all, but some. She said, 20 years I've been waiting for them. 20 years.
That's a long time.
you
That's a
know,
long.
it is a long time. My grandfather didn't come through for 20 years.
Wow.
I've always had my gift. I've seen everybody that died since birth. Like as a child, I've just always been connected and was giving messages like at 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. It was just who I was. My youngest son is the same way. But when my grandfather died, I think 15, and I never saw him.
Wow.
And that's when I kind of started to kind of think, well, maybe there is a hell, because he
Mm,
wasn't a great person and he
mm,
had done some bad things. And so I started really questioning things that I felt like I knew.
Okay.
And when he did come through, it was through another medium that I really respect. About 12 years ago, my
mm,
mother was very ill at the time and was fighting dying because she was scared to die. And he came through the other medium to say, tell your mother I'm sorry and I want her to forgive me. And I promise that it's okay and it's a beautiful place here. And we're all waiting for her.
oh
Yeah.
my.
I gave her the message and she flipped out, of course.
Yeah.
But, I gave it to her and it took her 7 more years to die. She was just holding on in what I call hell, but it was like he had apologized because I felt he wasn't a good father and he wasn't a good person. And he realized that on the other side, and he didn't come through to me until he was ready to acknowledge it, is how I feel.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
Feeling.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so interesting. And my father is absolutely came through really pretty much as soon as he crossed over. I felt I was able to connect with him, and he's been a big part of my training and my development and helping me win my readings, right? So because we ask our guides, our departed loved ones, to step in and be our support and help us to provide those healing messages.
We do. And I've had a lot of guidance from my own father who died, 25 years ago.
Mm.
He's been my biggest guide in the spirit world. Never a dad, but spirit world best dad ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny, isn't it? I interviewed the lovely Elisa Beaver, who does instrumental trance communication. Now, don't ask me that after I've had a glass of red wine. Instrumental
What does that mean?
trance. So basically, on a machine where you can tune in to the spirit world. There was Mr. Bocci, the Italian guy with the radio, very famous for bringing through spirit voices on the radio. Mr.
Oh,
Bocci.
I know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, Lisa, Sonia Rinaldi kind of spearheaded modern science towards communication with the spirit world. Sonia's coming on actually end of March, so I'm really excited about that.
Oh,
I
I've been lucky enough to interview 2 other people, Tony Ruffman and also Elisa Beaver. Now, Elisa, and I haven't released this yet, we're going to do a podcast at another time, but Elisa said, do you want me to contact your dad, basically? And I sent her pictures. And it was interesting. Now, Elisa knows nothing about my dad. Absolutely nothing. Sent her a picture. And he came through with his first name, second name. And then he said, talk to mum.
mm.
So, and it's interesting because you have to create like a bass sound. And then they use that sound. And that spirit can then jump on and use. It's really interesting. And he then said that Paul comforted my body. Now, when my dad was dying, I was the only one in the room. Oh, it's going to get me upset. I was allowed to comfort him because he was so distressed. He didn't want my mum and my sisters to see it. And he was the only one who let me to see him with him. And that was really difficult. But he actually said that on a message. Now, again, Elisa had no idea of the story behind my father. So,
It's amazing.
That's beautiful. Were you with him at the time of his passing?
unfortunately not, because I when my dad had the heart attack, he was rushed to a hospital. I actually dreamt the night before in a very funny, unusual way that someone wasn't going to make it the next day, and there were certain words that were said when we met my father's consultant at the Papworth Hospital in the UK is known as a specialist heart hospital. They've done heart transplants. I think they were the first hospital in the world to do one there. And gosh, go back a long time ago. But basically, what the consultant said to the family was exactly what I was given in the dream the night before. So I knew my dad wasn't going to make it through that night. But unfortunately, my daughter was about 5, and my son was about 7 or 8, and I had to take him home to bed. It was just me. So unfortunately, no. He passed about 2 hours afterwards.
Wow.
But he really fought to be here. He didn't want to go.
Yeah.
That's how my mother was.
Yeah, I could see that happening to a lot of people. Are either afraid to pass or they want to stay here. So
yeah.
I actually saw my mom leave her body, but her passing wasn't announced till 12 hours later. Or not 12, about 8 hours later. I saw her soul lift up out of her body at like 10 in the morning. And I said to my sisters, "Oh my God, do you see the smoke coming out of her? Do you see Mom?" And they looked at me like I was crazy. And she wasn't pronounced dead till 7 in the evening, but I saw it at 11 in the morning. Wow. Yeah. And I saw her sitting outside by our car on the corner, and she waved to me, but no words.
So let me just tell you that when my father passed, I saw him passing also. You could see I saw a lot of color. I saw a lot of imagery. You see vibration in the room changing. And I felt angels all around him. I felt all of our loved ones were present. So would you agree, Paul, that, no one dies alone? Like everyone has loved ones waiting for them. What is your view or how do you share that with people, your clients?
I was literally about to say that, and so when I left to say goodbye to my dad, the last memory was the children weren't really allowed to see him, but we waved from down the corridor, and he put his hand up. As we walked out of the double doors to the left to go towards the stairs, behind the lift shaft there was a man waiting for him. Oh my gosh! So I knew at that moment.
Oh my gosh.
It gives me goosebumps. I love that. Yeah.
It was in a suit and tie though, so it wasn't my granddad. It was too posh for it to be my granddad. My granddad was really old-fashioned, working class. His father. So, but this guy looked in a very smart suit and tie. He was very well dressed, and he was waiting for my father.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I wonder who it was.
I don't know, but there's so many people that I remember. You guys must have had this experience as well. When you're reading for people when they're near the end, sometimes I get the kind of, you're in that moment with them. And I remember I was sitting by the bed where the loved one was, and I was looking at the mum who was in the bed, and then I looked across and saw the husband reading the paper waiting for her. And I said this to the sitter, and she said, "That's exactly what she said. My dad's here. My dad's here." So it was a beautiful piece of confirmation.
I love that.
Yeah.
I know my mom saw her dad and her mom, and she saw other random people, and I felt them. But I remember this was 7 years before she died. She had a near-death thing where she was in the ER, the emergency room, and I was with her for a week when they didn't think she was going to make it, and she kept waking up and thinking it was like 1936, which is the year she was born, or 1916, which is 20 years before she was born. And she kept saying, "Why is that man reading a story to that child? Get them out of my room." And I felt it was my grandfather reading to my uncle. That's what I had felt. And she then blurted it out as I felt it.
Oh, yes.
And it was just very interesting. And then she was yelling at somebody else, and she was pretending to answer a phone call. I mean, she was reliving all these crazy things. And I really thought it was the end for her, and it was her way. And I stayed with her. But of course, she came out of it. This is what my mom did. She was so afraid to die, and lived 8 more years like that.
Oh, good.
I felt everything in the room with her that she was bringing up and saying. And it was in the beginning, not the beginning. I had been developing for 5 years, but it really was like a stepping stone, or um, almost like a boost in my mediumship, because it gave me the validation or the confidence to believe what I had been questioning, if that makes sense. It was like, okay, I have my answers now. I don't need to question this anymore. I have full faith and I trust it now. And it really was a big shift in my mediumship. That was the beginning of like it all taking off in a way that I had not expected. So I just, I think that that's kind of how our families play a part in our own career in some ways, our parents, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, because my grandmother used to see spirit, and that was probably the most natural part of my mediumship was sight. And the problem is with sight, you can make an assumption because you see something, but you don't truly know it. You're seeing it on face value.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So I really had to then start to develop what it was I was getting. So
Yes.
and similar to your experience, I had that with spirit children. Why do spirit children, when they pass, always stay around parents? And I was told because because they've gone into the other side, they're still growing and learning from that hub of the family. They're still a part of that.
Yeah.
They come particularly around special celebrations, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard it been said, but I never believed it until I actually had the message myself, if that makes sense. Like, okay. So that's a beautiful one. Understanding that children sometimes just don't need to touch the earth for long, but then they come back and they're around the family anyway. Part of that soul's evolution, perhaps.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you about your work as a psychic medium? Because you had mentioned, I know you're very busy. We appreciate your time today because you travel. Are you doing public demonstrations? I believe you were saying how busy you were trying to help people understand where you're coming from or where spirit's coming from. So you do travel, right? From in the UK, you're always out.
Well, to be fair, I'm quite lucky. I'm within a sort of 100-mile radius. There's a lot, and in the UK, there's spiritual churches on every corner, pretty much. Compared to you guys, you guys have really got to travel to different spiritual churches. Well, we have one every sort of 10 miles or so, and there's so many. I mean, this year spiritualist churches, from a business point of view, it's a service. You can't live on what you're paid. You just get your petrol money. So I've signed up for 35 this year.
Oh my God.
35 services around East Anglia, and I try not to travel too far unless I really have to. I've been asked to go to Ireland and work in Ireland this year, but we'll see. I do love. I'm very much focused on. I'm so busy around this area. I don't need to go anywhere else. It sounds awful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then, you're like us too, right? I mean, you're working on Zoom. Is that right? You do a lot of, working with people remotely.
Yeah.
Phone readings and stuff.
Yeah, I've got a reading tomorrow for a lady in America somewhere. So yes.
I'm gonna have to book a reading.
Oh, bless you. Absolutely. I would love to give you a reading.
I would love it. Yeah.
Just to share you with our audience and our viewers, like, we're posting the links for everyone just to let you guys know. You can go to Paul Bannister medium, right, .co.uk, and really check out Paul Bannister. He has a wonderful spiritual talk TV, but also you're doing readings, like you're booked out, I'm sure, right? You're booked out.
Yeah, I have a bit of a wait.
Services.
Yeah, I'm quite a bit of a wait for a reading, but because I'm now full time, and in this country, because there's mediums again on every corner, it's quite hard to get work. So a lot of people tend to do mediumship in their time off when they work and have a normal day job. But I'm now full time mediumship, and I wish I'd have done it a lot earlier because I'm really busy. For example, next weekend I've got a Friday evening demonstration for a homeless charity in Norwich, and then on Saturday I'm over about 50 miles the other way doing an event, a charity event again for ovarian cancer. Then on Sunday I'm at Lifestyle Spiritualist Church, doing a demonstration there. Problem with that is it's good, and I'm working, but you guys must feel this as well. There's an energy exchange between yourself and the spirit world. You have to be grounded and centered, and there is a fine line about burnout. You're looking at me like, Kelly, you're like, yes, you need to slow down. I can see it.
No, I love it. I'm listening to you because I'm like, I resonate.
Yeah, Kelly works really hard
Works
too.
too much.
Yeah.
And I have to take a step back every
Yes.
so often.
Yes, so I was ill recently in January. I don't know whether that was a cause of it or part of it that I was. And you get to a point where you just don't want to let people down. And I'll get a message for a private reading that's really urgent. I need an answer. So you end up fitting them in your weekend or your day off, which is not how it should be. So there is a thing with mediumship. You've got to enforce your boundaries.
Yes.
But because you need to look after yourself, because if you're not looking after yourself, you can't connect. You won't have the same depth of connection.
Exactly. Do you ever just wake up sometimes and just think, I need a break and reschedule the readings?
I dream of Hawaii. Okay, I dream of Hawaii for a weekend. I really do. But it's okay. We've got Southend on Sea around here. Just Google it, guys. You'll see the difference.
It's sometimes I wake up and I just feel like I just need to relax because my body's telling me that. And in the past, I would fight it and I would keep working because I want to give to everybody. But then what happens is your body breaks down and you get like so sick you can't work. And that's what I struggle. I'm working on that boundaries. I'm working on that.
Yeah. Cheryl, do you have the same thing?
I do. I work a lot, but I'm actually taking a lighter schedule for this summer or this year. I just decided to kind of just, do some more things that I'd like to do privately, whether it's, going to the gym and exercising or just doing more, work around the house, so to speak, but spending more time with family. So I've kind of cut back a little bit and I'm really enjoying it. So it has helped me. I really do. I think it's helped my mediumship when I do jump into my mediumship. As you mentioned, it's going deeper. Yeah. So I have to agree with that. But it's very easy for me too to get overworked. I mean, that is a very real thing, is that mediums usually want to help and we want to keep helping. And that seems to be, you get into this fast lane or you get into overbooking or and you want to help people. Really, it is come down to it is we feel very honored and what a privilege it is to be a medium and to be able to do this work. So when we get asked, it's like, of course, I feel moved to help you.
So here's a question. Sorry, ladies, this is your podcast, not mine. But can I ask
questions?
do you think mediumship is an addiction?
Oh, is an addiction?
Oh, that's a great question. Were you reading my mind?
Right.
Can I just share, when my son passed away, I was newly starting my business. I'd been doing it a few years, and then my son died right after I opened this crystal store in Huntington Beach, and I was working with clients one-on-one, and I had an event planned 2 weeks after he passed, doing small group readings for people where everybody got a reading, right? And my son died unexpectedly, and it threw this huge wrench in everything I believed and everything I wanted. And I thought to myself, I'm going to quit. 3 mediums who were just acquaintances. I really didn't know them. I don't even think I ever took a class with them. We were just friends on Facebook. And I hadn't even announced that my son had died. All reached out to me and said, did your son pass away? He wants you not to quit mediumship. You have to keep going. So for 3 years, almost 4 years after he passed, till 2020, I was working 6 days a week, doing 6 readings a day, and then 10, and then groups of 10 on Friday and Saturday night, like events as well. I mean, I just threw myself into work. And on Mother's Day, because he passed Mother's Day weekend, I was doing free events all day for 12 hours for mothers. And to me, that was part of my healing, because every reading, I just felt so connected to my son because he showed up at every reading to help me. And then I 3 years later, I had a burnout and I had to take like 6 months off.
Wow.
And then I've kind of like, now I'm like, okay, I have a limit of 3 a day, no
Mhm.
more than 4 days a week. And I sporadically do small group events, but I had to find a balance.
Yeah, the balance. It is all about balance.
It
What
was like an addiction because it helped me with my grief in my mind. But what it did is it prolonged me from really kind of dealing with my own grief.
Okay, I was
Interesting.
literally about to say that, Kelly. And I think I have a warped sense of grief, like when my father passed, when I lost the lad that I grew up with, John. He took his own life. Oh, it still gets me now, and he was 29 when he took his own life. I don't think, well, we never get over grief. We learn to live with it.
Yes,
Time.
yes,
But as a medium, I think I've got a bit of a warped sense of grief because I will not accept life is life and life lives on. They're as much alive over that side as they are here.
yes,
Mhm.
And I always try, but then am I missing the experience of grief itself? Because what is grief? Grief is another level of the love that we have for that person.
yes.
And I think sometimes psychologically, and by the way, I'm so sorry you lost your son, Kelly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Thank
can't
you.
imagine the grief you went through losing a child.
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got my dear friend MJ who's come on tonight. I've got an armband that remembers his daughter. So
Oh.
it's pretty horrific when
Mm.
we have these experiences. But what does grief itself teach us? Are we not experiencing the grief process properly? But then I'm so passionate about that they are not. Look, guys, they're not dead. So come on. I went to a funeral the other day, and forgive me, it was a very typical English funeral, and it was my friend's sister, and I was privileged enough to give her a last reading. She asked for a reading a few months before she passed, and it was a privilege. And I went to the funeral, but I was saying to my son in the car, it just feels wrong. Over here in the UK, we have 20 minutes, a few memories. She went to this school, married this person, had children. It's almost like, I'm sorry to be crass, it's like, thanks for coming, toodaloo.
Yeah.
It's awful. And I'm like, we need to celebrate life.
Mhm.
Life. And I know when spirit, I don't know if you experience this, when one rejoins them, they're a joy. They've come
Mhm.
home. But when one comes into this world, there's another joy.
Mhm.
There's perpetual joy. It's just that we seem to have the grief bit in the middle. We have all these emotions and a very human experience. But
Yeah.
I do think we need to celebrate their memories as remember
That's
the good things, all the and
good
the
thing.
bad are laughable because when you've gone through that experience, the bad can be more retrospective and take on a whole different energy.
Comical.
Yeah, absolutely.
And somebody wrote that grief teaches us appreciation, and that's so true. But what grief really taught me is to appreciate the moments
Mhm.
and the memories, like the things that we did as a family. I am
Mhm.
so blessed that at a certain point in my life, I left their dad because I knew there was more to life than what I was experiencing in that relationship and that marriage.
Mhm.
And I found this amazing love of my life, and my kids, I got to be a mom. I got
Uh,
to be home with them. I got to travel with them, not far away, but like we did everything together as this family. And we were so close, and we have so many fun memories. And I look back at that and I like, thank God that I was able to break free from this trap I was in my 20s with my children, and to find somebody that was beautiful and get to live and be my child's best
Mhm.
advocate, best friend, everything. And even though he was here for 20 years, he taught me so much and
Yeah.
was a huge catapult in my, like, I'm saying that
Mhm.
wrong, in my spiritual development, my relationship with the spirit world, and my understanding, because he's my biggest teacher.
Right.
So I look
Amazing.
at it now and I try to, when I feel sad, because I feel sometimes my grief is selfish,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
then try to focus on what he taught me and how blessed I am that I had him for this short 20 years, and how
Mhm.
much he's taught not just me, but the whole family, because we've had to learn to be a family again with new dynamics, and it hasn't been easy for
Mhm.
everybody. There's a bunch of us, right?
Mhm.
So to me, He's part of all our growth. And I
Yeah.
thank him for that every day. And I thank him for choosing me. So I try to like flip my pain into that and try not to be what I feel. And I know this is just me, and I'm not saying you're selfish or being for grieving, but this is how my brain is like, how selfish am I to grieve that he chose this short life and I'm upset about it. I want him here longer. But he did what he meant he came here to do. He accomplished it.
But Kelly, you're also living the legacy that he left and imparted in you. You live every day for his inspiration. He
Yes.
would want that. And so many times I hear messages that they want us to be happy and to grow.
Yes.
I remember giving a message to a lady that lost her son, and it was quite a profound message. It was a particular evening for a charity that parents that have lost children. And there was one young man who died. He came through, gave me his name, and then he told his mum to go out the house, to walk around the corner. They even named in my ear the church. Go into the church and give up your pain to God. Give that grief of losing her son, because he wants you to live a full life.
Yes.
It was such a beautiful message.
And I love that. I love that.
And Kelly's son has not only helped us, because we all know Kelly, and I mean, we have seen signs from her son, and she shares them, and then we get to see them. So, I mean, he's teaching many of us. We don't realize how expansive the soul is, and the learning continues and ripples and heals. So really, what a magnificent purpose for her son to be, and that she is also a part of.
I feel blessed for it. And I think that we should all look at, like, when we lose a loved one, like how blessed we were to know them, to experience them, and to learn from them. Because every interaction with every human is that not like a lesson?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. But as mediums, you guys are well experienced. You've been in the industry for a while. I don't like that term industry. The community is a better word.
I like that.
Because we are quite a small community worldwide.
Yeah.
There's those that don't necessarily, maybe younger people, that's an assumption, sorry. I'll take that back. But there is those that don't fully understand the process sometimes. Can I share a really bad story?
No, please.
We
Yeah.
won't get banned off this, but don't worry. So I came across, a lady came to me because a medium had been to her house, because she woke up one evening and there in the corner, what she believed could have been her husband, but she couldn't work it out. But it frightened her so much, it scared her. She had a medium come to the house, and she was told, your husband is evil, and he shouldn't have done that. And you are to get rid of every photograph of him, all his clothes, you're to burn everything. Now, thankfully, the daughter had the mind to say, no, this isn't right. This guy also charged her a lot of money. He then told her that he was going to clear the house. Well, he came through to me. They came to see me, and I put them straight. Now, that kind of thing is so dangerous. This woman was so vulnerable. She had a 50-year marriage, this man. And after the reading, the daughter said they were so in love. So why would he want to come through and scare her?
He would.
But what he did pick up on was his dad, her dad grew up, and this lady's husband grew up in a very difficult area in London where there was a lot of gangs around. And he picked this up and said, well, he was a part of this gang, he's really evil. And the guy was a hard-working man and provided for his family. What do you think about that, the unethical side of mediumship, in terms of, do you come across that? Do you ever hear that in your work? People that have been told stuff.
Oh, yeah. Every day I live in a community where there is not a lot of evidential mediums, nor is there a lot of education. And that's kind of my goal, and why I've created my own spirit center and trying to educate as many as I can, and why I bring all the most amazing mediums to town to help teach and demonstrate, because I want people to understand that that's not how it is, and that's not true.
Yes.
It's my biggest pet peeve, but at the same time, I also don't want to step on somebody's toes or offend anybody. But I don't agree with what they're doing. And I think if they're doing work that causes harm, fear, and all of those types of things, then they're not doing the right work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, there's a thin line with that as well, though, isn't there? Because what's one person's idea of that? Skeptics might say that we're preying on the vulnerable. So that it is a fine line. You have to be so careful with that.
Yeah.
I have a dear friend that I've known for a very long time, and she went to go see an intuitive, a psychic in her area where she lived. And, just to see what that was all about, even though she and I are very close and I always help her, but sometimes you're so close to your friends or family that you do have to say,
No.
have another person read them. Yeah. And the boundaries, right? Boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries.
This person who gave her a reading, still to this day, I have to say that woman is still in business, told her that she had a curse on her. Right. And that for $1,500 or whatever that was, we will remove that.
Yeah.
I think this person is still there in business. And of course, I mean, this is what happens is, they upsell you to, there's something wrong.
A healing plan.
Healing plan or a curse. Yeah. And I'll remove it for you for X amount of dollars. And we have certainly heard that. And
it happened to my husband.
Like that.
Yeah.
It happened to my husband recently. We did a holistic fair in the Bay Area, and I had a booth and I was selling crystals and doing readings, and I did like a talk, and the lady across from us was selling all these products, her and her husband, and she was doing tarot card readings, and my husband's like, I'm going to get a tarot card reading from her. And it was the end of the night. I'm packing up, and I hear it's going to cost him $1,500 to release all the curses that other people are putting on him because they're jealous. And of course, I'm thinking, do I need to intervene? And I know my husband. And he looks at me and I'm like, okay, I'm going to let this go. Oh, really? He says, oh, write it all down on this card for me. What do I need to do? And she wrote it all down and how much it was going to cost. And we just went right to the people that put the whole fair together and told them what was going on. And of course, like, they were shocked and she was gone. But like, that's not like, it happens, but we shouldn't let it happen.
It's robbery.
It is. It's robbery.
Robbery.
$1,500. Did she think we were wealthy? I mean, we're not, like, we're okay, but we're not wealthy. Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I know people that have gone out to Africa that are doing the same things. They're really heavy on witchcraft and voodoo and other alike things. And there's been people that have had accused of people going into where this person's worshiping. He charge so much to see him to relieve them of any curses. And the problem is that always comes down to education.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Christine's right, absolutely right. Predatory practices, it does damage the mediums.
It upsets me because you would hope that people would know better, but unfortunately, the people that are getting taken advantage of are the ones really needing the most help.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's not right, and it's not fair, and it also really hurts us because we're all judged on it. Like, we're all in one big lump sum. My phone now, when I call people, never did this before, but I guess Google does this now. It says psychic calling. And I don't like that. It used to say my name, my first and last name. So I use my phone for my business, but as well as my husband's contracting business.
Oh, yeah.
And so all these people are like, is your wife a palm reader? Like, what does your wife do? I'm like calling for collections, for his contracting business, and it says psychic. So we're like, oh my God, I have to use another phone.
So you have to get all the jokes like, well, you should know how much I owe your husband.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting approached for readings and I'm trying to collect. Like, it doesn't work.
It's funny. I love that.
Guys, I know we're talking about amazing topics tonight, Paul. I feel like we can just keep going, but we do have to have you back for a part 2 sometime. Would that be all right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I love it too.
Great. And I mean, really, and that way we can really encourage people to send us their questions. We've really hit on some key topics tonight, and we just want to thank you for being here. We know how busy you are, Paul, and you're in the UK. It's in the evening where you are. But really, thank you for being on our show tonight.
My pleasure. It's been absolute. It's been fun. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm going to be booking a reading with you for sure. And I hope everybody else does too, because I think you're amazing. And I can just tell that you're a great medium. So thank you.
Nice to meet you. And it's a pleasure, obviously, to see you again, Cheryl. This is a great show. Thank you for inviting me on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just to share with everyone again, if Brianna could share the link to Paul's website. If you haven't, if you're getting to know Paul for the first time, if you'd like to watch his show on YouTube, Spiritual Talk TV, but please check out Paul Bannister, really find out, what he's all about. I know many of you have been asking me, when is he going to be on the show? So I'm so glad we had him on today. But thank you again, Paul, for joining us. And it's just been such a pleasure learning about you and getting to know you even more. So thank you.
Maybe we could do a charity evening for whatever charity, the three of us working together in mediumship.
I'd love that. I'm down.
We're in.
I love it.
So everyone, you heard it here. Kelly, before we go, would you like to share with any events, your upcoming events with anyone?
Go to my website, mediumkelly.com/events or moxicrystals.com/events. Either one, they'll have all the upcoming events. We have a lot happening this weekend in the Sacramento area live. I'm teaching. We have a workshop on the Crystal Store on Saturday at 1, which I think we're booked already, but check it out just in case. Just go to my website. Yeah.
And guys, you're welcome, Kelly. And for myself, guys, my website is mediumcheryl.com. Please sign up for my newsletter. And once again, I have those monthly Circle of Love small group reading events. I have my energy transformation sessions that I'm very excited to have my second year, helping people understand about their own energy field and how to improve their spiritual health and fitness. And then lastly, I have my wonderful community, my healing prayer circle every Sunday evening. So that's also free to join. But guys, everyone listening to this show live and everyone listening to the recording this evening, thank you guys all for supporting our show. Once again, please like and share and follow us and really help us build this community even more. But we can't do this without you. And we want to tell you how important you are to us personally, because I know Kelly and I talk about all of you, that it feels like an extended family. And that's really what our goal is to really spread that love. And now Paul is a part of our family. So thank you, Paul, again.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be here.
Everyone, guys, have a beautiful evening. Namaste. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Seeing Beyond Living Transformed. We hope today's insights have inspired you on your path to a more fulfilling and enlightened life. Remember, transformation isn't just a destination, it's a journey we take each day. We invite you to continue exploring with us as we unravel more lessons and stories that empower growth and change. Mark your calendars for next week's episode, airing Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We've got more exciting topics and inspiring guests lined up that you won't want to miss. If you found value in today's episode, we'd love for you to like and share this video to help spread the message of transformation and inspiration. Stay curious, stay inspired, and until next time, keep seeing beyond. Thanks for watching.